Last two questions. Well, I think we're not going to discuss all of them now. In terms of the different schools of Islam, I think we should focus on that question mainly because it does tie into Imam Sadiq in many ways as well. And I think the brother was asking why, everybody claims they're trying anyway to follow the school or the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Why do we choose the Ahlebait?
Well, what you find is that, first and foremost, these different schools that we have, which people sometimes refer to as schools of thought, in many cases, these are schools of jurisprudence. So they're not giving you a holistic message. They're giving you a message solely related to jurisprudence. So when you hear the Hanafi school, or the Maliki school, or the Shafi'i school, or the Hanbali school, these are schools of jurisprudence. They're not schools of jurisprudence and theology. They're simply schools of jurisprudence. With somebody like Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam, we take our jurisprudence from him, we take our theology from him, we take our ethics from him. The school is therefore a more holistic school. Someone says that, why is it that you take the Ahlul Bayt? How can we show that the Ahlul Bayt is the school and the origin of the religion of Islam? Well, the Holy Prophet himself, sallallahu alayhi wa, before he passes away, he makes this statement very clear. That I leave behind for you two weighty things, which if you hold on to them, you'll never go astray. What are they? The Quran and my Ahlul Bayt, my Ahlul Bayt, my Ahlul Bayt, which he stresses on 3 times as per narrations. So when somebody says to us, why do you stress on this family? It's not that we are stressing, it's that our Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as a form of guidance which he left behind for us, told us to hold on to this family. Told us that the repositories of knowledge, told us that the people who protect the interpretation of the Quran, and the way I've protected the revelation of the Quran, is my family. So when it comes towards why do we follow Imam Sadiq alayhi salam ahead of others? Number one, the others, they only provide us with knowledge on jurisprudence, whereas Imam Sadiq alayhi salam provides us with knowledge on every area. Number two, it's because our Holy Prophet is the one who told us to hold on to the members of his household. And Imam Sadiq alayhi salam is the great-great-grandson of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa, and we hold on to the teachings of the Prophet through his grandsons.
And is that also not a link to the concept of course, the Prophet ﷺ saying, Imam Ali is the gate to me, so you have to go through him to come to me?
Without a doubt, as in the Imams of Ahlul Bayt, each one of them is the gate towards the Sunnah of Rasulullah ﷺ. And what is our aim at the end of the day? But that we are trying to reach the Sunnah of the Prophet, and nothing more. We want to reach the Sunnah in order that we live our life in the way he lived his life, ﷺ. And the Imams of Ahlul Bayt have provided us with a legacy by which we can live our life.
Absolutely. We have another caller on the line. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Assalamu alaikum.
Actually, first of all, it's a very beautiful program you have started, and we get the privilege of hearing the answers from the well-known and a very talent of Sayyid Ammar. I have a very small question for Sayyid Ammar, is that every Imam before Imam Sadiq alayhi salam was asked or forced for the bayat of for leader of that time. Was Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, was he asked for bayat, and what was his reply, whether it's a yes or no, and what was his reply on both occasions?
Okay, thank you very much, brother. Thank you, Assalamu alaikum.
Yes, in terms of this question, it seems that there is a period of relative peace for Imam Sadiq alayhi salam that one may argue had never really been seen in the Imams before him. As we know, there was a transition period from the previous rulership of the Umayyads towards the Abbasids, and the Abbasids were seeking to consolidate their position. Al-Mansur al-Dawaniqi, at the beginning, was very hesitant in allowing the Imam to have any freedom. But he allowed him to have his relative freedom, in which he was able to teach within the famous university that many grand scholars of the religion of Islam were able to study in. But it seems that later on, Al-Mansur begins to notice that the Imam, there is definitely a rise in his popularity. And he suddenly starts to spread guards who are constantly watching the Imam. In terms of a particular writing where it says that he said, you have to come and pledge your allegiance towards me, there doesn't seem to be much in the narratives. In terms of, however, watching his every movement, and especially towards the end of his life, then you find that it's the beginning now of the from Imam Sadiq onwards, is the beginning of watching over the Imam in Medina and the distancing of the Imams from Medina as well. The Abbasids begin to notice that now that these people are getting stronger in Medina, we're going to distance them. And that's why if you look at the Imams of Ahlebait, after Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, none of them are buried in Medina. Are they?
Yeah.
Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam, Baghdad.
Yeah.
Imam Ali ibn Musa Rada alayhi salam were in Mashhad. Imam al-Jawad, Baghdad. Imam al-Hadi, Imam al-Asghar alayhi salam in Samarra. So there is a close watch on him towards the end of his life. And this may also be argued from the fact that the Hassanid line, which was still alive, was definitely causing chaos for al-Mansur al-Dawani. So he began to increase his watch over that line and the Talibid line, which was present at the time.
We have another caller. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, brother.
Salam, how are you, brother?
Alhamdulillah. I've got a couple of questions.
Sure.
The first question I'd like to ask is regarding, to my understanding, I've read a couple of books in history which talk about immediate brothers of the Imams alayhi salam who apparently claimed the imama. What I'd like to know is, say them up, perhaps elaborate or clear any misconception on this particular issue. For example, Hazrat Zaid, is it true that he ever claimed to be an imam? That's the first question. And the second question I'd like to ask is regarding the names of the children of the Imams alayhi salam. Is it true that they named the children after certain personalities such as the first Khalifas? Is that true or not? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your call, brother. In terms of the first question, I think this is actually very relevant to the discussion we are going to have today as well. Imam Sadiq was one of the Imams who you mentioned as previously was alive in the time of Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam. And as the brother mentioned, Zayd, who obviously the followers of the Ahlul Bayt who belong to the Zaydi school, who are not Ithna Ashari, and who claim that they follow Zayd, who was in their view the Imam. The brother was asking, did any of these individuals, such as Zayd, ever claim imamate for themselves? Any of the brothers of the actual Imams? Sure. And was there a schism in this way?
There may have been brothers of Imams or nephews of Imams or even sons of Imams. Let's say there may have been certain instances later on with some of the Imams of Ahlul Bayt who may have laid a claim towards leadership. Let's say not so much imamate, but leadership of the school once the Imam has passed away. In terms, however, of Zayd, in the opinion of the Ja'fari school, Zayd never for himself claimed that he is the Imam of the people, and the idea that he is designated by Allah and that he is infallible and that he is the repository of knowledge amongst the people of the time. Without a doubt, Zayd had led a rebellion and an army against the Umayyads, who in their courts, leaders such as Hisham bin Abdul Malik would indulge in the cursing of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi and of his Sahaba. So you found that Zayd led this army, and Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam, who was present at the time, when Zayd came to meet him, Imam said to him that, I fear that they'll do to you what they did to our grandfather in Karbala, in reference to the Kufan supporters who he was expecting to turn up in droves, and unfortunately not many of them did. So in our opinion, within the school of Ahlul Bayt, Zayd himself, with all his piety, he was known as the partner of the Quran, a man who used to stay up in the night, constantly reciting supplications and so on. There are many great titles which are given to him. You find that, in our opinion, he never claimed imamate. He knew that Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam is the Imam of his time. Of course, there may be another school within Shia theology which comes forward and states that the Imam is the one who rises against the oppressor of the time, or rises against injustice. And because Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam wasn't the one, it was Zayd, they may have taken him on as the Imam. So there are certain later developments in schools, looking back at history, in which certain theological treatises wrote that they preferred one Imam over another. Whereas in our opinion, Zayd never came forward to claim that he was the Imam ahead of his brother.
I'd just like to remind the viewers again, this is a live show, so inshallah, if you'd like to phone and ask any questions, the number is 0208 900 1741. And I believe that we actually have another caller on the line. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, Brother Isa.
Assalamu alaikum, brother.
And I'd like to give my salam and du'as to Sayyid Ammar Nakshawani.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Mike, I've got two questions. One's, I'm going to have to quote a hadith from Imam Jafar al-Sadiq, if you don't mind. Is that
Yes,
okay?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Pardon?
Yeah, sure, go ahead, brother.
And secondly, it's about, my second question is regarding a second ziyarat. Will you permit me to ask those two questions?
Sure, brother.
Yeah. The first one is from a book by, it's called Al-Amali by Sheikh Al-Mufid.
Yeah.
And it's the hadith is called 5 Prostrations of Glad Tidings. The first one is from a book by, it's called Al-Amali by Sheikh Al-Mufid.
Yeah.
And it's the hadith is called 5 Prostrations